Hey, basketball fans, welcome to another episode of Around the Rim. Yes, we used to be a podcast. We are now a YouTube show exclusively dedicated to the WNBA. 2022 season is rolling, and there has been a lot that has happened. If you have not caught our first 3 episodes, make sure you check those out. Get caught up to speed on what's happening with the league as we approach the All-Star break. I am your co-host, LaChina Robinson, joined by my co-host, Terrika Foster-Brasby, who is now the president of her sorority. Congratulations, Terrika. That's big news. We have to discuss, seeing as though you are forcing us to digest a large amount of blue and yellow on this show. Oh, excuse me, gold. Excuse me. Congrats to you.
Thank you so much. It is genuinely an honor and a pleasure to be the president of my chapter. We use Latin/Greek terms, so I'm considered the basilisk. So I am very excited about that.
And your sorority again is?
Oh, if you didn't know, my good people, I am a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, founded November 12th, 1922 on the campus of Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we are turning 100 this year. So next week, I'm really going to show out on the show.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. All right. So we're going to get into it today. We have a lot of topics we want to cover, from All-Star Superlatives. We're going to get into Chicago a little bit, talk about some teams that are struggling. Connecticut Sun, Terrika's team, lost their last 2. And the Las Vegas Aces seem to be on a little bit of a slide as well. We will talk about the NBA 2K cover announcement that just happened. So let's start with All-Star. Headed to Chicago, Terrika as well. We can't wait. As far as some things we're looking forward to, let's start with MVP. You know, this is tough because I think that All-Star is a time for people to show out, right?
Right.
And you immediately start with the defending champs in Chicago that have 4 players on? Is that right?
They have
3.
Candace, they have Kalia, and they have Emma Meeson. So they have 3.
Oh, shoot. They got 4. Courtney Vandersloot.
Oh, Courtney Vandersloot.
So they do have 4. So, you know, it could definitely be someone from the home team running away with the MVP. I could see that. But I am going with Kelsey Plum for my WNBA All-Star MVP, because I feel like Kelsey has been putting the league on notice all season, right? Like, her career has continued to progress, but she has bottom line said, I want to be considered one of the best guards in this league. You know, she has been outstanding for the Aces, and she's never met a shot she didn't like. So she will be pulling up from the hash mark. Will definitely be, you know, step back, sidestep, threeing in everybody's eyeball. Mm-hmm. And I don't think she'll be looking to pass. So the shots are going up. Could she put down a 30 piece? I'm going to predict that Kelsey Plum is going to put up a 30 piece. What do you think? MVP T?
Oh, for me, MVP, I am going, and I usually don't like to go popular names because I know they like to have fun, but I'm going Skylar Diggins-Smith. I feel like Skylar has a lot to prove this season and is truly playing with a chip on her shoulder. She's been balling out for Phoenix for all year long, really. And I know she feels some type of way that publicly, the clip that went around that her coach didn't acknowledge her. Now, there was word that there was acknowledgement prior to on a part of the clip that we didn't see, but nevertheless, she kind of expressed how she felt about that, on top of the fact that she is not a starter. She's a reserve. And I think a lot of people have something to say about that. It just feels like this is a season where Skylar is going to really show why people need to stop continuing to doubt her and what she can do and what she wants to do. I think Skylar is going to be the MVP.
Well, and let's be real. It's in Chicago. South Bend is right down the street. So it's kind of like a home team, home game for Skylar as well. All right. So let's talk a little bit about fashion. And I'm going to stay on Skylar Diggins-Smith. You know, these outfits for All-Star, it's going to be real. Like the social engagement around what you're wearing on the orange carpet. I just can't wait to see what these women are wearing. And I hope that these different brands and sneaker companies are really getting behind these players and putting some money and some dope outfits together. But I'm sticking with Skylar. I said this on the broadcast this weekend. Skylar has been showing up like she wants Anna Wintour to put her in Vogue. Like these fits she's wearing, I think she's been putting on some of Christina Nigue's clothes. You know, she's with Puma. So some pieces there. But I just think that she's giving us Cruella de Vil vibes, like the villain, and just looking amazing in her pregame fits. And I think she's going to show out on the fashion side.
So I'm actually gonna roll with Kalia Copper. Now, if you guys remember last year, she pulled up in the pink fur with the little like little bushy little things on the side. And I was surprised because Kalia doesn't necessarily present to me as someone who would pop out like that, right? Like I was super surprised and super impressed, and she killed it off with the sneaks. So I was like, Kalia gonna come harder this year than she came last year. I'm really excited to see what she's gonna put on the orange carpet.
Well, and let's be honest, Kalia is gonna have the best hair. Like, I just want to know how she keeps it so flawless. But I'll be wearing a little drip in Chicago as well. And surprisingly, a former WNBA player is going to style me for a couple of my looks at All-Star. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, Terrika has.
Let me make sure I get my camera ready for the LaChina drip.
Okay. Anyway, moving on as we wrap up our All-Star superlative conversation. When you look at the teams, the draft happened, Stewie and Asia, selected their teams. One move that I really like that they made was, Sue Bird is now on Team Stewart and Sylvia Fowles is co-captaining for Team Wilson. And I love that because Asia has a close relationship with Syl, and obviously Stewie and Sue are very close. And I just feel like they should have got to pick their own co-captains to begin with. So I'm happy that that happened. But, when I look at the teams, starters, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm saying it's tough, right?
Starters for Team Wilson are Sabrina Ionescu, Sylvia, Candace, Kelsey Plum, and Asia Wilson. Reserves are Errol Atkins, Erica Hamby, Natasha Howard, Ryan Howard, Brianna Jones, and Sloot. Team Stewart is Sue, Jonquel Jones, NECA, Brianna Stewart, Jackie Young, and Kalia Copper, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Jewel Lloyd, and Mamisa Arike Gumbawale and Alyssa Thomas are coming off the bench. Oh, this is tough. This is really tough because when I see Plum, Candace Parker, Asia Wilson, Fowles, Ryan Howard, and you got Sloot like delivering the ball to Hamby on the run and Brianna Jones getting 2 feet in the paint, easily could go Wilson. However, what scares me is the reserve for Team Stewart. Kalia Copper, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Arike Agumbawale, Alyssa Thomas, Jewel Lloyd. So if I had to pick, what I would say is I think that Team Wilson has the better starting lineup and Team Stewart has the better reserves. Now, how the playing time is decided by Wade and Hammond could ultimately decide it, but that's where I'm at with it right now.
Now, see, I want to say for a disclaimer that LaChina and I have not had a conversation about this before now.
No.
So it's not like this is a setup. But sis, I feel the exact same way. When I look at this lineup, right, instantly, as we were watching the draft, I was like, wow, okay, Asia. Okay, we going somewhere. And then I started seeing the reserves. And when I saw Emma, and when I saw Alyssa, and then I saw Arike, I said, whoa, Stewie is pulling out the stops. Now, this means either A, there are just so many amazingly talented people in this league that your reserves really could be your starters. Or I'm now looking at who's going to be the better coach, because that's where I am with this. Now, I can't even look at the rosters to determine who I think can make this happen. I now have to look at the coaches. And a part of me wants to lean James Wade because he's got a little bit of championship pedigree in these situations before. So I'm kind of leaning towards James Wade being the better coach in this situation. And that, would then mean that Team Stewart, I believe it is. He's Team Stewart, right? Team Stewart.
Correct.
Exactly. So don't come for me, y'all, if I'm not right. Don't come for me.
Because the game is going to get tight. Like, they're not going to coach a lot in the beginning, but the game's going to get tight, right? Like, and they're going to have to actually coach, and that will be an interesting thing. So a lot to look forward to with All-Star. Now, we wanted to talk about some teams that are on a little bit of a slide. Since we have our resident Connecticut Sun analyst / reporter / pregame host / all things, Terrika, we're still a little bit worried, right?
I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried,
Okay.
to be completely honest with you. Before this past weekend, Connecticut was 1-4 coming back home on Sunday. And they pulled out a 17-point comeback against Washington to kind of get them back on the right track. But then yesterday went into Dallas and never really could seem to get their rhythm. And that's something that Kurt Miller has talked about, something that we've noticed. One, they just haven't really been starting games well. Like, first quarter has just not been offensively favorable for Connecticut, and that's really been a struggle. Two, we haven't really seen our all-stars play like all-stars. Jonquel Jones had 10 points in 25 minutes in the game against Dallas. That's concerning. I also think that there's a little bit of late pressure. And by that, I mean, this is a team that does well when they're out on the fast break. They're a team that does well in the paint, and they're not realizing that until it's too late. At this point, you're finding the pressure late in the game, and you're already down 10, or you're already down 12, and it worked again for the game against Washington, but this is a game that had no Elena Deladon. Mm-hmm. If Elena's in this game, this is a totally different situation. You're not coming back from 17 points down. So I think that they really have to use this break time to figure out, how do we come out of the games with the same intensity that we want to end with? What do we need to do to get our stars more involved? Like, people are starting to triple team Brianna Jones, rightfully so. But I mean, how do we now counter that? What do we need to do moving forward to kind of close in that gap that we're starting to see on the defensive end late in games that's, putting this team behind? You can't play catch up. The teams are getting too good. They're starting, other teams we talked about before are starting to find chemistry now as we move later into the season. And so some of those late game heroics that worked earlier against, per se, Phoenix and Seattle, those things aren't going to work anymore. So that's really the first things that I've noticed over the last few games for this team.
Yeah. And you have you have a pulse on this team. You're with them all the time. A couple things stand out to me when it comes to Connecticut. Number one is, I believe DeWanna Bonner has to be a double-figure scorer every night. I do. I just think it takes pressure off of everyone else, in particular when she's hitting threes the way we know she can, right? To me, that's always been the most important aspect of DeWanna Bonner's offensive attack, is if she can knock down the long ball. And her numbers in recent games, she had 11 points against Dallas, 7 against Washington. 8 points against Chicago. And I just feel like she has to, be a double figure scorer and be consistent. And in that, she's been decent from 3, 1 for 3, 0 for 3, 2 for 4. But more than anything, I just don't feel like she's in as much of a rhythm. And then I just think they have to continue to get depth off the bench. Like, I think Dejanay Carrington, there was only one double figure scorer off of the bench for Connecticut in their loss to Dallas, and that was Brianna Jones. Like, Dejanay Carrington, to me, has to replace that defensive intensity that they're missing in Jasmine Thomas. I watched this team in Atlanta dominant, and a lot of it had to do with Dejanay's ability to come in a game and change up what's happening. And, some people may say, do you have to be able to go 7 deep? No. I mean, like I said, DeWanna Bonner was the first point of the conversation, but I also feel like them getting that defense off of the bench and getting production for more than one player has to be consistent for them to be at their best. But what about the Las Vegas Aces? They have hit a little bit of a rough stretch. Yeah. And here's what I'll say about this. It's a team that's getting everyone's best, right? Everybody's tired of people talking about Vegas. We basically have already given the trophy to Vegas and everyone's over it. So teams are really coming at them. That Minnesota loss, though, threw me for a loop because that was a large margin. And Minnesota is on the climb. Let's talk about a couple teams that are turning the page. Minnesota is turning the page. Okay. Aerial Powers showing out. I just think this team is motivated to really give Syl what she deserves in her final season. Thank God. And also LA is coming on as well. And so other teams are getting better, but I still feel like Vegas is playing with the target on their back every night. And so they're going to have to literally learn how to play that way. Yeah. And then also, I just think they have to continue to be so balanced in their offensive attack. Like, while Chelsea Grays is scoring, Kelsey Plum can score, and Jackie Young, it has got to go through Asia Wilson. They've got to continue to balance their scoring with their front court, despite not having as much depth as they may want in the front court. They've got enough, especially with Teresa Plaisance, the way she can come in and change a game. Rupert there now gives them a little bit of more stretch there. Dearica Hamby can do some scoring. So I just think they can't get shot heavy on the perimeter. And definitely, obviously all the rules apply, take care of the ball, those things. But for the most part, I just think they're getting everybody's best shot. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that too. And just to piggyback off of that, like defensively, we have seen spurts of this team having defensive collapses, and obviously, against the Lynx is probably the most extreme defensive collapse that you can point to. But that's something that we aren't used to seeing out of Vegas. Like, even if they, in times where we have seen offensive struggles from them, defensively, they've always been locked in. And that's, to me, one of the biggest problems that I'm seeing with them over the last few games. But I think that that's something that Becky can correct. And I think that that's something that they know. And I'm also concerned about their depth. For me, I want to see more production, as we were just talking about, from Connecticut's bench. I would like to see more production from, Las Vegas's bench, because they're going to need it. DeWanna Bonner said something few months ago that can really apply to every team. You don't want to hit your stride too soon. And that happened for Connecticut. That's happened for Las Vegas. A team that knows that, understands that, and has figured that out is Chicago. They didn't start off this season necessarily the hottest with their foot on the gas, but when they did hit that stride, they have been hitting it ever since. And they look like a team that is absolutely ready to repeat as champions. And so, again, this is just an opportunity at the break for these teams to really reevaluate some of the, concerns and challenges that they have, and take these few days to, nobody wants to watch film over the All-Star break, but realistically, take a look at some of the things that didn't work for you in this stretch, in this rut, and make some changes moving forward. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the Aces, as I mentioned, they lost to the Lynx. They lost to the Storm. They lost to the Mystics in overtime. Lost to the Sky. So that is 4 out of their last 6, I believe, that they've dropped. So definitely keeping our eyes on that. And to your point about All-Star break, for a team that doesn't have a big rotation, they could be getting tired. Like it's a lot. So that's that on that. All right, moving along. And this is going to be a conversation that's ongoing for us, because Terrika, we like to have these conversations about the covering of the league and the marketing and those kind of things, and how much more we want for the WNBA as far as investment from companies and sponsorships and all that. Kathy Engelbert always throws that number around, that less than 1% of all sports sponsorship dollars go to women's sports. I don't know if the number's still there, but that's embarrassing. So for everybody that likes to jump in my mentions about how the NBA makes more money, and that's, why the players get paid more, there's also a greater investment in the NBA. Okay. There are sponsorship deals out of the wazoo. So it's about these corporations and these companies sitting down at the table and saying, you know what, instead of us giving $999,000 to the NBA and $1 to the WNBA, let's see if we can balance this thing out. And this rings true to me more than anything as we approach All-Star. Who is going to be putting money into WNBA All-Star Weekend, right? Like, let's call it out like we did NCAA. All of a sudden, all these companies that were supporting the men in the NCAA tournament were like, oh, shoot, let us go cover the WNBA. We're busted. I mean, the NCAA women were busted. Like, let's put these dollars up. Same thing needs to happen on the W side. So anyway, I just totally took that for a loop. But good things coming from NBA 2K, that they put WNBA players on the cover, because they could have just gone with an NBA player. We know that they will, and they've got some making up to do in that sense. But it was Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird that they chose to put on the cover. Terrika, what are your thoughts on that? I know there's a lot of conversation swirling, and we're here for the conversation.
We are absolutely here for the conversation. And so, when I first saw it, I was like, I'm cool. Like, I'm cool with it. And the reason that I'm cool with it is simply because I understand that we live in a capitalistic society and money moves. And if you are a company that is looking to sell a video game, you're going to want to put on the cover the people who you think most people are going to recognize and notice in order to sell that particular game. And Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird are two of the most recognizable WNBA players in the world. So it makes tons of sense. They did the same thing last year when they had Candace Parker. She is one of the most recognizable WNBA players in the world. It makes sense that you do this. The other part of me is, when do we get to a point that this is not 2K, by the way, this is the WNBA. This is the media outlets that cover the league. This is other companies that are looking for people to represent the WNBA for their brands. When do we get to a point where we begin to utilize and understand the marketability of the other players in the league, so that we don't have to continue to keep using the same 3 to 4 players on everything, because that's what people see, that's what people know. It really plays back into the cover story that Jonquel Jones just did not weeks ago, where she talked about how there are, players like herself who are some of the best players that this game has ever seen and don't get the same opportunities. This State Farm commercial is probably the first commercial that I've ever seen Jonquel Jones in. And that to me is questionable. And so when I look at this 2K cover, again, I get it. You want to sell games, you put Sue and Diana on there and you will sell games. People who don't watch the W know who Sue and Diana are, and they'll buy that. But why and when do we need to continue to say over and over again that this league is full of people who have marketability, who can bring your company money, who we need to be bringing attention to? And when do we start to do it and stop just talking about it? So that's kind of where I am with it.
I couldn't agree with you more. First of all, Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi are definitely deserving of everything that's coming their way. I mean, we're talking about 2 players that have been very underpaid in terms of their league salary, despite building the popularity of the game throughout their careers and all that they've done in sacrifice. But yet, so has Sylvia Fowles, right? And so Sylvia, in my opinion, it's tragic, quite honestly, because there are a number of reasons, if we're being real, about why someone like Sylvia Fowles may be missing from this moment. She's getting ready to retire. She won't be on the cover of NBA 2K ever in her career now, because that opportunity is gone. But to your point, like, for years, we have been ignoring what mainstream media sees as the most popular, attractive, marketable players, when the best players in the WNBA are sitting right here waiting for their opportunity. So the fact that Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi are absolutely through the roof in popularity is on us as the media. You know what I mean? It's on the people who for years have been stuffing the same players down the throats of the fans and totally ignoring that there's so much more than that, right? And that's why I've been glad to see Candace getting the opportunity she has, but she's had to go on to NBA on TNT and do all these other things to really get her just due, quite honestly. So yeah, I don't know what all went into, the timing of this and all of that, but I would have loved to see Syl get some recognition, on her way out. The cover is fire. We're always happy when women are getting something. Like, I'm not going to start complaining every time, something comes out, just because we are still making strides. But Black women, it's a majority Black league. Like, they need to be centered when it comes to, what is selling and who's on covers and everything that's going on in this league. And Sylvia has been buried in that, and it's sad because she's such a great personality. Like it's such a missed opportunity. Why Syl doesn't have a skincare deal? Why Syl doesn't have a workout deal? Like, she has the best body and physique, the most beautiful skin. Like, she's incredible. She looks like she just got off a flight from, she's like one of the pyramids in Egypt. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's fresh off of she's amazing in so many ways. So I'm here for all the discussion. We are happy for Sue and Diana. We're happy that NBA 2K is putting women on the cover, but let's continue to have the conversations about what companies are missing. You're missing the visibility of Black women. You're missing the investment in Black women. And for many of us, it's just a built-up frustration. Yes, we are grateful. However, we've been having this conversation for years. The metrics support it. Stop putting people on things just for clicks. Like, let's dig a little bit deeper than that. Let's not just throw, your first idea about the WNBA into the pot and go with that. Like, get to know the women of these league, get to know this league, get to know the storylines, understand the demographics of this league, whether it's LGBTQ plus or, all of the different levels of diversity. So
yeah, agreed. And just for the disclaimer for the record, because you said it multiple times, but you know how sometimes context can still be misconstrued. So we want to say it once more. Congrats to Sue and Diana for this, because this is important. The progression of women is important, but you are women that look like LaChina and myself. It is a double-edged sword. Sometimes you have to push the envelope further than just advocating for women. We have to advocate for Black women. We just have to.
Yes.
So
intersectionality.
We have to. So don't come for us talking about Sue and Diana. We are not. We are just saying keep that extra step in mind when we're elevating women, that we do have to push the needle for Black women too.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it for us. WNBA All-Star activities this weekend. Saturday is the skills competition and the 3-point competition. Sunday is the All-Star game. It's going to be lit. Terrika and I will be trying to bring you whatever fun we can from our social, and then we will give you all the lowdown next week on our episode of ATR. Thanks to Drea, our producer. If you want to hit us on Twitter at LaChina Robinson, Terrika's at She Knows Sports. You can email us at aroundtherimpodcast@gmail.com or hit us on Twitter at aroundtherimpod. Until next time.